Hi, Pickens View. It was such a great honor to share with you all on Sunday morning, be able to bring the word and dive into that. That was just a joy. I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And we're doing the devotional this week. I wanted to do a little bit of a follow-up, a few practical things when talking about both developing a healthy eye, a healthy lens where we're seeing God and His kingdom. And then also, if you may remember me sharing about sitting on the couch in my living room in the dark through the night, and just kind of being in that place, that dark place, but then God offering this kind of invitation, I want you to come over here, and me going, I see that, I want that, but I don't know how to get there. So this is a little bit more about spiritual disciplines, which are practices. We call them disciplines because they're things that we do. It's kind of like when if you have a partner in your marriage, or there's lots of different scenarios, but in a marriage you might schedule a date night. We might be like, once a month or every Friday night, or it's on the calendar that this is date night. And so spiritual disciplines are that same kind of, we're making this a practice in order to benefit our relationship. And so this is our relationship with God and our spiritual formation. When we're in relationship with God, it's about knowing Him and Him knowing me. And really, that's how I am transformed, by the renewing of my mind. That's how I'm sanctified. That's how I engage this process that we call spiritual formation. It's in this relationship with Jesus. So one of the first one that I'm going to mention might not sound at all like a discipline. It might not be on many of the lists that some of you might have already read and are familiar with, but it is honesty. And this has become a discipline for me because of how easy it is to somehow kind of do the Christian life separate from what is actually going on deep in my heart, in my soul, in my mind, And so there's this way that we can sort of spiritualize positivity, and we can, even when we don't mean to or don't want to, we can still kind of, go to church and look good and put a good smile on our face, but forget we start to do that with God as well. And so the discipline of honesty, I'm talking specifically, this is really in the context of prayer, and I'm talking about in your relationship with God. So I look at many of the characters in Scripture. One of them, in the Old Testament, you have Job, who goes through all of this trauma, and then he just boldly, he brings all of this grief right to God. So it's this way that he's able to say such bold, even harsh sometimes, things out of his pain, but he's bringing it to God. And so God is they're able to work it through together. And then I think of Martha in the New Testament in John chapter 11, when Lazarus dies, and she marches herself right up to Jesus's face and says, if you had been here, he wouldn't have died. This wouldn't have happened. So how many of us have had situations and experienced pain or a loved one's pain where we thought, God, why didn't you intervene? I'm angry, I'm disappointed, I'm hurt, I'm doubting whether or not I can trust you. There are real things like that if we're human, we will experience or think or feel, but we sometimes are more likely to either bury it or to say it, to all kinds of other people, than to come before God and tell him the truth about this is how I really feel. This is what I really think. So I don't know if that connects with any of you, but one of the things that can keep me from getting from here to there is I'm not willing to work something through with God. I'm not being honest about something, that this is how I feel. So it makes me put up a barrier, and then I'm kind of just I'm keeping myself distanced in that sense, kind of on purpose, instead of engaging. Okay, look, this is my truth, and then this is your truth. This is your response, and then we work it through together in relationship. So, honesty is a really important actual discipline for me that I have to practice in my life, where I have to. So part of that is this next one, and is part of listening, and it's just making space, taking time to sit and be, to sit and listen. Yes, with the word. But it doesn't always have to be, you don't have to read the whole time. Sometimes when we read, it's how we read, and being able to say, I have a question about that verse. Let me ask God. Let me pause and let me reflect on that. Let me ponder that. David says, I meditate on his word day and night. And so there's space for his word to ruminate, for us to be able to listen and actually hear his response to us. And so this is so challenging for us, because we have our phones going all the time, because we've just got so much news and media, because there's a high demand just everywhere. There's high demand for our time. But I think as believers, have to find a way to continue. We no longer have a real Sabbath, I don't think, where, life flows into the weekend in so many ways, so many occasions. But we have to find ways where we pause and make space to actually be with God and hear from him. So these things are very critical. So the bigger, the easy answer, the Sunday school answer for spiritual disciplines, read the Bible, pray, and go to church. Yes, but deeper than that, be honest when you pray and when you're reading the word. Have space to be able to listen and be able to sit and let all the noise actually fade for at least, enough that you can start to come alive in your imagination and in those parts of us that we miss when we're always rushing. So then I'm just going to add one more to the end of that, though there's just a million of other possible answers for, how can we grow closer to God? How can we get from here to there? This is a big one, is as I am working, I'm praying, and I'm working through things with God, and then I'm making space. I'm in his word, and we're in kind of this dialogue. I'm making space for him to actually speak, and I'm making space for me to be with him and listen. Now, when he speaks, we actually have to obey. So sometimes there's something that we actually have to do. We actually have to change in our lives, and that makes a huge difference. I think of the rich young ruler, who, he's like, Jesus, I'm awesome. I've got it all down. So what else could there possibly be for me to do in order to be holy, to follow you? And Jesus says, well, I want you to sell everything that you own and come and follow me. And he walks away sad. So, there's, in that story, it's just this, I think, this reality that sometimes we have to put action to our faith. I don't think it is about that action. I don't think for the rich young ruler, I don't think all of us, none of us can be a Christian unless we sell everything we own, but it's sometimes there's a physical activity. We can't have a faith that's only up here. Even if it's here and here, it has to move into our bodies and into our lives. So there's action. Sometimes there's change. So, for me in this this exact, situation that I was talking about, in terms of sitting there in my living room in the dark, and then praying these things and kind of knowing God's calling me somewhere, but I don't know how to get there. And, there's making space, there's being honest. But then there was also, actually, as I shared in the message, just kind of briefly, but being obedient actually to come and join you all was a part of that for us. So that required some action. It required, talking to our daughters who've had quite a bit of transition in their lives, saying, we know you just got real plugged into our church and are serving and making friends, but we're going to change churches again, and some of them, now we drive 30 minutes to church, and there's different ways that we had to engage. Our schedules had to change. We had to actually make real tangible changes in the life of our family, in our lives, in order to step into obedience with what God was saying and speaking and how he was leading. And so sometimes we need to be honest, and that sometimes that's hard to be honest with God. Again, that's not the same thing as going around and telling everybody this is how I feel. It's no, can I actually bring my honest, this is what's going on, to God? Can I do that? And that's kind of a part of how we have to know how to pray and be in relationship with him. And then also, can we make space for that and make space for a response? Can we make space to listen and to be with him and be in his word and allow him to lead and guide us? And then in all of that, when he does, will we obey? Will we actually follow what he tells us? And so sometimes that actual tangible, I'm now putting this thing into my body and into practice, is what's needed to get us from A to B, to get us from here to there. And so I don't know if that resonates with any of you, is helpful whatsoever, but those are some of the things, just basic things, that in my own life have greatly impacted my journey in growing with Christ. And we have been through some adventures. There have been some adventures, but always I get stuck if I'm not being honest and I try to hide how I really feel. If I just can't make the space to sit and listen and actually have opportunity to hear his voice. And then if I am withholding somehow some obedience, where sometimes right in my gut, I know, sometimes I might be like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but somewhere in there I know, and I'm avoiding it, or, and so sometimes there's a tangible thing of obedience that's uncomfortable that we actually have to walk through, that is part of this movement that gets us from here to there. So bless you all this week, and I will see you soon.